Hi there, this is Mr. Khan from 11 Plus and GCSE Coach. In this video, we're looking at proportion. So, what is proportion? Proportion compares a part to the whole thing. Proportions are written like this: 2 in every 5, for example. Now, if I was to give you let's say this is a necklace and there are 5 pieces in it. So, if I want to see how many are circles, I would say there are 2 in every 5 are circles. So, the 5 represents the whole thing and the 2 represents a part of the whole thing. In this above example I just gave, 2 in every 5 was a circle. Compare this to what we did in ratios. If you write ratios of circles to triangles, you would say 2 to 3. But if you say how many circles are there in the whole thing, you would say 2 out of 5, because there are 5 different shapes and 2 of them are circles, so 2 out of 5. It's slightly different when it comes to ratios. Um, uh, if the question carries on, if there are 35 shapes, let's say a bigger necklace I want to make with the same pattern as 2 circles and 3 triangles. If there are 35 shapes for the above example, how many circles would there be in that big necklace? So if 2 out of every 5 are circles and the bigger necklace is made up of 35 shapes, how many circles should I expect? Now, one of the ways of doing it is the following. So we know 2 out of every 5 are circles in this case. And we know altogether there are 35 pieces in this new shape because it's 35. So what I need to decide is, how do I get from 5 to 35? So the total number of shapes will be 35 in this. Let's say if it was a necklace. So it's equivalent fractions really. And if you're not sure how fractions work, please go and watch the video on fractions, equivalent fractions especially. So to get from 5 to 35, I need to multiply this number by 7. So I'll do the same to the top number. So 2 times 7 will give me 14. So that means in the bigger necklace with 35 shapes, 14 of them should be circles. So the answer to this question would be 14 circles. They would be in the bigger shape. So how many circles would there be? The answer is 14. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, let's carry on with this. As an example, Maya has a box of coloring pencils. 5 in every 7 of them are green. If there are 84 coloring pencils in total, how many green pencils are there? You can pause the video if you like and try to solve it before I show you the answer. Hopefully you had a go at this. So we know 5 out of every 7 are green. So if it's like a pattern, you have a pattern of 7 shapes, 5 of them are green and the rest are other than green. But we know that total number of pencils is 84. So the total will go to the bottom. So that's the total of the pattern and that's the total of the whole set. Sorry, not 18, 84. So now I need to decide, how do I get from 7 to 84? So 7 times what makes 84? Well, 7 goes into 8 once with the remainder 1. 14, 7 into 14 is twice. So answer is 12. So 7 times 12 makes 84. So I'll do the same to the numerator. So 5 times 12 give me 60. So that means there are 60 green pencils in this set. 16 green pencils. Hopefully that made sense. Another type of question you get in proportion is this, where you have a number of copies of something given to you and you've got the total price, but they want you to work out the price of a different number. Because the price is proportional to the amount, so the more you buy, the more you'll pay, the less you buy, the less you'll pay. What you need to decide is, how can you get from 8 to 3 by multiplying or dividing by a number. So if I was to write this information in a more orderly way so I can simplify it. So I know 8 copies, so that's your copies, that's your price. 8 copies cost £16.40. I need to work out how much 3 copies will cost. Well, I can't easily divide or multiply a number by 8 to get to 3. But what I can do is get to another number that can take me to 3 first. So for example, I can work out what 1 copy is worth. So to get from 8 to 1, I need to divide it by 8. So if I divide the copies by 8, I need to divide the price by 8. Remember, price is proportional to the quantity. So if I divide that by 8, so the answer will be 8 goes into 16 twice. 8 doesn't go into 4, but it goes into 45 times. So the answer is £2 and 5p. So 1 copy is worth £2 and 5p. So I need to work out 3 copies. But now I can take from 1 to 3 because that's easier. Because 1 times 3 gives me 3. So now I can work out the copies will be 3 copies here. I need to times the price by 3 as well then. So if I do that, 3 times 2 and 3 times 5p will be 15p. So that'll be £6 and 15 pence. So that would be the price of 3 copies, is £6.15. This is a nice way of organizing a proportional question. Write down the amount and the price, and then go from there to the number you need. Hopefully that made sense. Have a go at these questions, pause the video, and when you're ready, you can play the video and see if you get this right. So hopefully you've had a go at this question, or both of these questions. So we know we have 1,000 bottles, so that's the bottles, and that's the time. So 1,000 bottles take 5 hours to fill in this machine. The question is, work out how many hours it would take the machine to fill 1,200 bottles. Now, from 1,000 to 1,200, again, it's not very easy to times or divide by a number to go to 1,200. So I can go to a number that can take me to 1,200. In this case, I need to keep an eye on the time as well, so I don't want to go to a number which might be harder to work out. So what I mean is, it'd be easier to get to 1 hour. So if I go from 5 to 1 hour, so if it fills 1,000 bottles in 5 hours, so in 1 hour, I divide it by 5, I divide the bottles by 5 as well. That gives me 200. So now I know in 1 hour, I get 200 bottles, if it does 1,000 bottles in 5 hours. Now the question is to work out 1,200 bottles. Now that's easy now. To go from 2 to 1,200, I simply need to times it by 6. So 200 times 6 is 1,200. So that means 1 times 6 will be 6 hours. So the answer to this question is, it will take the machine 6 hours to fill 1,200 bottles. The key thing to take from here is, whatever you do to one number, you do the same to the other. This is an example of something called direct proportion. So the more machine hours you do, the more bottles it will fill up. The less you do, the less it will fill up. Okay, question 2. Hopefully you've had a go at this question as well. So again, organize the information in a way so it's easy to work with. So we have it costs 75p or 0.75 pounds to buy 5 bananas. So the bananas and the price. So we know 5 bananas are worth 75p. I can write in pennies or pounds, doesn't really matter. I'll stick to pennies, it will be easier to deal with. So 75p. So I must remember this is in pennies now, not pounds. Okay. I need to work out how much it will cost me to buy 7 bananas. Again, from 5 to 7, I can't times 5 by like a straightforward number to get to 7. So what I should do is get to 1 banana first, because 1 to 7 is fairly straightforward. So to get from 5 to 1, I divide 5 by 5. I must divide 75 by 5 as well. So 5 goes into 7 once with a remainder of 2. 2 goes next to the 5, makes 25. 5 into 25 is 15. So that means 1 banana is worth 15p. Remember, this is in pennies now. So 1 banana is worth 15p. How much will it be for 7 bananas? So nice, easy to go from 1 to 7. I times it by 7. I times the price of 15p by 7. So again, if you are not sure how to multiply numbers, please watch the video on multiplying numbers. 7 fives are 35 with the remainder 3, and 7 times 1 is 7 plus 3 is 10. It's 105p. And that could be written as £1 and 5p. So either way, the answer, you can leave it as that. So you must write the letter P after it for pennies, or you can leave it as that with a pound symbol before it. They both are equivalent. So hopefully you got this right. Another type of question that you get for proportion is ingredients question. Now, these are quite common. So here's a question. Here's a list of ingredients for making 10 flapjacks. Work out the amount of each ingredient needed to make 15 flapjacks. So this is a recipe for 10. So if you've done any cooking, you will understand how to increase or decrease a recipe depending on the number of people you need the recipe for. So in this case, if 10 flapjacks require all these ingredients and that's the amount given for them, how would it work out 15? Well, hopefully you realize, 15 is 5 more than 10. Now, and 5 is a half of 10. So if I was to work out 5 flapjacks is worth ingredients, flapjacks. Now to get from 10 to 5, I need to divide it by 2. That means because it's proportional, everything must be divided by 2. That must be divided by 2. That must be divided by 2. That must be divided by 2. And that must be divided by 2. So 80 divided by 2 will be 40 grams. 60 divided by 2 will be 30 grams. 30 milliliters of golden syrup divided by 2 will be 15 milliliters. And finally, 36 grams of light brown sugar will be 18 grams. So now for 5, I need all of these. So 10 I already have it from the question. 5 is just, I just worked it out. So that means 15 will be the addition of both those numbers, 10 and 5, flapjacks. So 15, I just need to simply add them together. So 80 plus 40 gives me 120 grams. 60 plus 30 gives me 90 grams. 30 plus 15 gives me 45 milliliters. And finally 36 plus 18, 54 grams. Hopefully you understood this. So basically you work out however much more you need and add the number together. If it's that's what you need to do. 10 plus 5 is 15, so you add them together and you get that. Sometimes the question might be a multiple rather than adding it on, so you need 30 people's worth. You times everything by 3, and so on. Hopefully that made sense. Now have a go at this question and see if you can work this out, and when you're ready, play the video and see if your answer is correct. So hopefully you had a go at this. You have 16 gingerbread men. It should be men, not man. And these are the ingredients for them. Ahmed wants to make 24 gingerbread men. Work out the amount of each ingredient that he needs. Now to get from 16 to 24, just like before, the difference from 24 to 16 is 8. So I need to work out what 8 gingerbread men will be. Gingerbread men. This is not gram actually. This is gingerbread men. Okay, so 8 is half of 16. So just like before, I need to halve everything. Half of 180 will be 90. Half of 40 will be 20. So I'm halving everything. So that was divided by 2. So I'm dividing all of these by 2. It's not always going to be 2, but in these 2 examples that we just did, it just happened to be 2. 110 divided by 2 is 55. And 30 divided by 2 will give me 15. Now, because that's 8 gingerbread men's recipe, already have 16, add them two together, you get 24 gingerbread men. Okay, so I just need to add them together. 180 plus 90 will be 270. 40 plus 20 will be 60. 110 plus 55 is 165. And 30 plus 15 is 45. And that's how much you need of each ingredient to make 24 gingerbread men. Hopefully you got that right and it makes sense. Thank you for